I knew I was angry, right? I mean, I was angry at, what was going on in the community, but, more so I was angry at really the historical injustices.
Yeah, all right, let's do this. What's good, everybody? Tabea, aloha, wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hope you're well, hope you're safe. Yeah, wherever you are. Ghazali O'Reilly here again. And this is episode what? I keep losing track of things. Yeah, episode 12 of Gomluko Live, your show where we answer all your questions related to or relevant to Indigenous peoples. Get excited, folks. Get your pen and a piece of paper. Get really excited because on this episode, my bro, Jacob Kaumaka Aki is stopping by. Kaumaka, people are particularly interested in your recent successes, obviously, and you just started a business, and I really want you to plug this because I think it's a cool concept. So definitely plug that as well in every answer you give, or you do once. I'll leave it up to you. I have no doubt that we will talk about it, but for me at least, and we met. I think UN Permanent Forum 2014, maybe.
Yeah.
That's
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, with the Hawaii caucus, always super exciting to be around. I think that year, no, a couple years after that, was in Hawaii as well. We hung out. At the usual places, and I think when I say usual places, the good places, not the plastic places, but like places for for real Native Hawaiians experiences, I would say. So whenever you go to Hawaii, contact Kaumaka and he'll hook you up with amazing places. The most interesting is, for me at least, not most interesting, fascinating is for me is the background, origin story, your comical Avengers episode 1, because so that people can put you into like the right context.
Sure.
So please, explain like who you are, when you grew up, like the whole thing in like the 5-6 minute version of it.
Yeah, got it. Sure. Yeah, so thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. So yeah, we met in 2014 at the UN. And since then, I think we've both been following each other on what's been going on. So once again, thanks for having me on. But aloha, everyone. My name is Jacob Aki. Born and raised here in Hawaii. I was born and raised on an island called Oahu, in a small place called Kalihi, which is about 5 or 10 minutes away from the major airport. Grew up in a multi-ethnic family. I myself am Native Hawaiian, Samoan, Fijian, as well as a number of different other ethnic backgrounds. But like many of our indigenous peoples, grew up in humble beginnings. I grew up in public housing. Grew up on government welfare. But I was very fortunate that I was able to get a great education. I went to the Kamehameha Schools, which was a school that was founded in 1887 by Princess Bernice Pauahi Bishop. And the purpose of the school was to educate Native Hawaiians, and got a great education there. Graduated high school in 2013, then went to the University of Hawaii, where I got my degree in Hawaiian Studies. And that's when I first met Ghazali. I was a student with Kumu Lilikala Kame'elehiva, who is one of my mentors and provided a lot of opportunities for me to engage not just with those in the Hawaiian community, but to engage with indigenous peoples around the world. Having the opportunity to meet Alaska Natives and eventually going to the UN, where I've been continually engaging with. and that's how Ghazali and I met. But graduated and immediately started working in our local government here in the Hawaii State Senate, and that's where I really got involved in government, got involved in the politics here, and trying to understand my role, not just as a young professional, but my role as a Native Hawaiian, and having all of these experiences to engage with indigenous peoples, engaging with the Native Hawaiian community. What is my role of how I can not just build capacity for Native Hawaiians, but how can I make a difference in my community? And for the past 5 years, I've been working in the state Senate, engaging in a number of critical issues affecting our state. Then while doing that, got my master's degree from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and just continuing that engagement in our political system. And then in 2018, decided to run for public office for the Honolulu City Council to represent the community that I grew up in, and the community that my family continues to live in. Great experience. I think if you're someone who's involved in politics and really want to make a difference, I think running for office is a great opportunity to really learn more about yourself, but the opportunity to also learn about your community. I ran a hard campaign. We overcame a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, but fell just a little short. Made it past the primary election in August, and in November came up about 1,000 votes short. And while I was disappointed by the outcome, I think it was an experience that I really gained from it. Just having to run your own campaign, having to put yourself out there, you really learn a lot of different skills, right? You learn not just the issues, but you learn how to do a bunch of different things like fundraise, which I think for a lot of people is a daunting task that kind of prevents them from running for office. But having to put yourself out there, knowing that what you're doing and what you want to do is really going to make a difference for the people that you want to represent. And here in Hawaii, there isn't a lot of Native Hawaiians in public office. I think if you look across government, you have maybe about a dozen or so, but that's not enough. And I think for me, the reason I got involved in politics was I really wanted to provide that Hawaiian voice at the table where these decisions are being made. So really grateful for the opportunity that I had to run. Met a lot of great people, but it also opened a lot of doors. Just started a new position last week here in our state government, the new Director of Communications for the Hawaii State Senate. So we're really looking forward to the opportunity to work with not just my boss, Senator English, who is also a Native Hawaiian, but opportunity to work with all 25 senators on a number of different issues and with a number of different communities across our state. So I think, I'm only 25, so I'm very fortunate that I've had mentors who have given me opportunities to grow, not just as an individual, but to grow and expand my professional career. So I'm just excited to see where that's gonna take me. But as you said, yes, I just opened up my own consulting firm, not doing it full time, but it's something that I was really looking forward to doing for quite some time. And we're just a small firm, and we do government relations, we do communications, we do public relations, we do community engagement. We actually do a lot. And I think for me, part of the reason why I started it was I realized that I had a specific skill set that I think could be valuable, not just to make money. I don't look at this as solely something I'm doing to make money, but I think it's an opportunity for me to offer my services, to offer my experiences, to help others run for office, to help local businesses, to help our local community. And that's the whole mission of it, and right now there's just myself and my other partner, who is also a Native Hawaiian woman. So we really pride ourselves on being two Native Hawaiians with a certain skill set, really wanting to make a difference. And I think that's why we work so well together, and why we actually have a lot of people asking us, okay, how can you guys help us So definitely excited for that, but definitely excited to see where things are going to lead in the coming months.
Right. Dude, that was an impressive like 6 minute version of it. And I think like full transparency, the people reach out to me, the humble community that I have that listen to the podcast, like a month ago, a little over a month ago, like get Jacob on the show, like his what he's doing at such a young age right now. That is something that is inspiring, because the people that were like 30s, 40s, 50s, like that's an inspiring story. And kids like youth that are looking at your story saw it as a someone that was like one step ahead, like one step ahead of where they are. So please get him on the show, pick his brain. And so I think like it is very well, what you're doing is very well being noticed by both indigenous and non-indigenous people, not only in Hawaii, but also like all around the world. So I think respect and props to you for what you're doing. This, so what you just outlined, let me unpack that a little bit and ask you.
Sure. Yeah, I know it was a lot in
No, by all means,
six
because
minutes.
it gave me like 5-6 additional questions that I would love to ask you.
Sure.
Because like this is a value driven show anyway, so it's trying to get as much value in it for viewers and people that are listening. So like obviously this already very impressive track record, resume that you built. When did you have that feeling, all right, like, this is what I'm going to do? Was it in childhood, early childhood? What was the experience that made you trigger like, all right, I'm have to figure this out because this is what I want to do?
Sure.
Does anything pop up in your mind?
It was really in my early college years. When I graduated high school, I knew I was angry, right? I mean, I was angry at, what was going on in the community, but, more so I was angry at really the historical injustices that were brought upon our people. So when I entered college, I want to say I entered as an angry student trying to find some answers. Um, I mean, you talk to me today, people don't believe that I was once that uh, guy protesting a development or protesting this or speaking out against that. But that's really who I was in my early college years. And I was very fortunate to have had a number of different professors, a number of different mentors who fell on different places on the spectrum. Those who were really from an activism standpoint, and then those who were also on a very diplomatic end of it. So I had the breadth of having the opportunity to learn from those types of people. But it wasn't until my sophomore year of college where I had the opportunity to participate in what's called the Native American Political Leadership Program at the George Washington University. And this program brings together about 6 to 8 indigenous students from across the United States, from Indian country, from the Alaska Native communities, and the Native Hawaiian community. And you go to DC for 6 months. You take courses at the George Washington University. You intern in Washington DC, and you just have the opportunity to experience everything about being in America's stronghold for politics and government. And it was there where the first time for me being away from my home in a land 4,000 miles away, and it was during those 6 months where I really started to understand what my role and what my kuleana, or what my responsibility was. Because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that not many people had. So I really took full advantage of it, of just trying to understand the American political system and how can I, as a Native Hawaiian, trying to make a difference, find a place in this huge bureaucratic government process. And it was there where, I had the opportunities to meet Supreme Court justices, meet with different people from across the country, but really more importantly, try to find myself. So it really took going away to really find out, what I really wanted to do. Came back home, with a whole new set of skills, and really wanted to apply it in a number of different areas. Got involved with things like the Democratic Party here in our state, got involved with our local neighborhood boards, having to hear different concerns coming from our communities. Got involved with the Hawaiian Civic Clubs, which is the largest Native Hawaiian grassroots organization. That was founded by Prince Kuhio in the mid 1920s to really advocate for the well-being of Native Hawaiians. And I just got involved in as much as I could. At that point, didn't realize or wouldn't have guessed that just a few short years later, I'd be running for public office, but doors just kept opening. And as I continue to engage, as I continue to, put my heart out there doing all of this work, doors of opportunities continue to open, and I just took it. Didn't know where it would lead, but knew that if I didn't take it, I don't know when that opportunity would come again. So I mean, yeah, it's if you told me in 2013 when I graduated high school that I'd be where I'm at now, I probably would have laughed, and I probably wouldn't have believed you, because I mean, for me, and I think this is a story for many of us, many indigenous peoples across the world, is that we don't come from money, we don't come from wealth, we actually come from very humble beginnings. And as a child, I mean, I grew up facing many of the same issues and problems that so many of us face every day. Things like poverty, things like drug abuse in your household, domestic violence, and all of these socioeconomic disparities. But the one thing that I think helped break this cycle of trauma, break this cycle of poverty, was education. And I think for me, is education is the key to uplift anybody. And I'm forever grateful for the opportunities that I had, the education opportunities. I mean, I'm the first in my family to go to college, first to graduate with a master's degree, right? So from a Western sense, I've achieved a lot. But I think when you look at it from an indigenous perspective, and you look at my own story and your story and the story of so many others, it's a sense of responsibility. And I knew that I had a sense of responsibility to do something. College age Jacob didn't know what that responsibility was, but I just kept taking opportunities, and consistently looking at ways of how can I give back. And one of my good mentors, this was his saying that always stuck with me, is when much is given, much is expected. So as much of the opportunities that I've been given, I'm constantly looking at ways of how I can give back. And I think for me at this point in my life, I realized that it's through public service, it's through government, it's through politics, and it's through giving our communities a voice in these bureaucratic government systems, where I think indigenous peoples have fell victim to for so many years. And being a Native Hawaiian, being a Polynesian, being an indigenous person, in these spaces where decisions that are affecting our entire state and our country are being made, I'm grateful, but I also have a sense of that I have to succeed, because we need to make sure that I'm not the last person in these rooms. I'm not the last person being able to experience these types of things, and that if I can help uplift the next generation, if I can help uplift my peers, if I can be their voice in these rooms, I think it's not just good for us now, right? But it's looking generations forward, of paving this path for them, like our ancestors paved this path for us.
Yeah.
So I think that's a long wind of, how did I end up here? Did I know I was going to end up here? I think the short answer is no. But I just kind of went with the current, and trusted in my instincts, trusted in the teachings of my mentors, of my ancestors, and I think that's it hasn't failed me yet.
Right, and I'm always a big supporter of leaning into your strengths. Like once an opportunity arises, just lean into your strengths. And so did you feel, because with all these opportunities, I think I already know the answer, but I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Did you feel you were ready for stepping into these opportunities, both on a personal level as well as on a capacity intellectual level?
Yes and no. I think, as of recent, I think the opportunities that have opened up, I think I felt that I've been prepared for. But early on, no. And to be honest, a lot of the time, I think I was just treading water, trying to navigate, trying to figure out, um, but I just kept going, and there's been times, I think there's been instances of where, I asked myself, like, what am I doing? I mean, I don't know what to do, but, I know that, I'm here for a reason and I just got to keep going. But, I mean, I think that's life. I mean, I think that's life's way of telling you that, even if you don't think you are prepared, you actually are. And for me, I just trust that whatever opportunities come, whatever situations that I find myself in, that I am prepared, because of the teachings of my mentors, my teachers, but more importantly, just with the guidance of our ancestors, right, who are always kind of guiding us
100%, 100%.
throughout life. So I mean, I think today, I've come to realize that, whatever doors open, you sometimes just gotta take that leap of faith and just go for it.
Yeah, I think like the best change, or like some anthropologist or some biologist probably has already did studies on it. I think like the best growth, or growth in general, like comes from like stepping into that, leaning into that discomfort. Like, well, I don't know what will happen, but I have this feeling that it might be helpful for the cause, for myself. So I'll just jump into it, and I think. Could it be that your juice that actually kept you going was that sense of responsibility, like that kept, like, yeah, did that go back into your head from time to time?
I think so. I mean, I think part of it too is with that understanding that, I've come so far that I can't just stop.
Mm,
Um, but I think another part of it is also realizing that a lot of these times, like, I was the only native Hawaiian in the room. I was the only young person in the room, and if I failed, what impression would that leave for others who would follow, right? So I think part of me is that's just the competitive nature that I have within me, but also with the understanding that, I don't just represent myself, right? I represent my community. I represent the hundreds of generations that have come before me.
mm,
So there's almost that desire and that want that, hey, I can't let them down. And I think that's what's allowed me to get to where I'm at. But I don't think I'm special, right? I think this is just something that many of us Native peoples find ourselves in, and especially in government, right? Is that sometimes we're that lone voice in the room, and we have no choice but to succeed. Um, and so I think as I continue to grow, as I continue to, go through life's journey, and that's kind of always in the back of my head of, who do I represent?
mm.
And more importantly, it's bringing honor to the hundreds of generations that have paved the path for us. But, it's also, what is the future going to look like? And if I don't succeed, uh, what what will what will be left for them? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, sometimes just just a bunch of things coming through my head, but
Mm-hmm. No.
it's
But,
I,
um,
I think there's a bunch of kind of outside forces that really dictate a lot of what we do and where we go.
yeah. You talked a lot about no, you talked a lot about, yeah. You mentioned a couple of times before about mentors. Explain like how big, like, are obviously they made an impact, but the importance of mentorship, and having and what kind of mentors did you have?
Sure, I mean, I think for me is I've been blessed to have had a bunch of mentors in a bunch of different fields. Uh, but it was a few that really gave me the confidence and the encouragement, and has made me realize that, hey, I can do it. And I think one of those mentors is somebody Dr. Lilikala Kame'elehiva,
Mm-hmm.
who is a renowned Hawaiian historian, a renowned Hawaiian leader who has educated hundreds of Native Hawaiian students. But for me, she's kind of been that major mentor for me in a bunch of different ways. When I was a student at the university, she was the one that gave me the opportunities to not just travel the world and see what's out there, but she invited me into rooms, into discussions, into spaces where I was able to meet lifelong friends and people who become my mentors. But she really took me under her wing and gave me as much opportunities as she could.
Mm.
And as a young college student, I mean, that was intimidating. I mean, Lily Claw is the type of person, many students grow up reading about in books. They read her books, they see her in films, they learn about, the leadership that she has brought forth to our Hawaiian community. And for me as a 21-year-old, actually being able to sit with her, being able to travel with her, being able to contribute to conversations that she's involved with, I mean, for me was just it was inspiring, but it was also intimidating.
Mm.
But she was the one that made me realize that, no, you have a certain skill set. You have, this ability to lead people, ability to comprehend complex issues, and you need to make sure that you use it. So like I said, just she's taught me so much, and I think I'm forever grateful to have been mentored by her. But I think there are other people who have also provided me with opportunities. Another friend, Adrian Kamali'i, right? Who
Yeah.
he's a PR guru. He's someone who's really steeped in our culture, and someone who I think has thrived like so many of us in a cultural context, also in a Western context. And I think for me, his friendship and his he's like that big brother who continues to look out for me, who continues to provide these types of mentorship and opportunities. And he's been somebody who I really look up to, because as someone who found success in his own Native Hawaiian business.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a role model, right, for so many who, like myself, are looking to get started with this business, right? And I don't know where it's gonna go, right? But I think looking at him and what he's done, provides me kind of that roadmap to follow. But I mean, there's so many mentors that I can't name them all now, but those are the two that really jump out.
No, but appreciate you for giving a little bit of insight in like the type of mentors that did you sought them out, or did it that did you gravitate
It
towards you?
just
I think it's
it
okay.
gravitated towards me. I mean, I think it was through Lily Claw I met Adrian,
Mm,
right? And it was, I mean, I was just a student in uh, Lily Claw's class, right? But I think she saw something in me that I probably didn't see in myself at that time. But as very well, right? When the kupuna, when the elders talk, you have no choice but to listen, right?
yeah.
If they tell you you're gonna do this, there's really no room for any arguments there. So I think I mean, I didn't see it in myself at that time, but I was grateful that others saw something in me and they continue to foster that growth.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And you just segueing a little bit. I'm just warning you. I'm terrible at building bridges. So I'll just jump
No,
from thought to
no
thought.
worries.
Appreciate appreciate it. Obviously you mentioned Adrian Kamali'i, founder and like I think owner of the Island Agency.
Yes,
Like it's both based in Honolulu, Hawaii, and New York City as
New
well.
York.
Did that did you have conversation with him before you started your business? Did it inspire you or not at all?
No, it actually really did,
Mm,
and he's one of my really good friends, right? So I think over the years I've had an opportunity to engage with him in a bunch of the different projects that he's worked on, But I think for me, kind of um, you know, he's kind of providing me that framework that I can look to, right? Of a business, of initiative that has been an ultimate success, right? But I think for me is using that as a framework, but also looking within, right? To what are my skill sets?
mm,
And I think for me, obviously campaigns and elections and working in the political realm is definitely one of I guess I'd call it my forte. But through that, having to learn communications, having to learn public relations, having to learn what it means to build coalitions and initiatives and consensus, and just having worked on a bunch of different projects, I think at the state level, as well as the international level at forums like um, the Permanent Forum for Indigenous Issues, having the opportunity to engage with organizations like the UNDP and places like Micronesia. Having all of this experience, all of this knowledge, all of this skill set, and kind of looking in my tool shed, like, wow, I have a lot of tools, but okay, how am I going to use it?
mm, mm.
And that's kind of where I thought, okay, I mean, the election was over, and I said, look, there's a bunch of tools that I have in the shed. I should start making use of it. So that's kind of how things ended up. I mean, I didn't have this grand business plan of how I was going to do things. I was just look, I have a bunch of tools. This is what I can offer, and let's just see what kind of fish I can go catch with it.
Mm,
And that's how it's been. I mean, that's kind of how it's been going.
yeah,
But in short, yes, I think there are certain individuals that I look to as kind of like my blueprint or my framework
right.
of where I want to take this business venture of mine.
Any words of advice, in all honesty, why I'm also very personally interested is I'm thinking about leaning towards doing that as well.
Mm,
Starting consultancy. I'm not sure how to package it yet, but like you said, like trying to put your skill set to as a service to others.
yep.
Um, I get that. And what is the advice you have, or it could be from like, you should do this, uh, to raging towards like shut up and just do it or not do it.
Sure, sure.
So feel free to say
Yeah.
whatever you want. Any words of advice in terms of, I get that imposter syndrome kind of idea for myself. Maybe it's judgment, fear of judgment. Maybe it's insecurity. That starting a business for yourself, when it comes to like my experience is mostly predicated on like international fora,
Hmm.
negotiations, advocacy, and everything else. So people naturally gravitate towards nonprofits,
Hmm.
and I'm leading towards more like towards a company, not because of like you're just saying, like not because to make money, but in terms of like freedom of being able to do what I do. Um, is there a way to overcome? Did you have the same thing, or if not, or any thoughts on overcoming that? This what I would call is imposter syndrome of being afraid to start a business instead of a
Yeah.
nonprofit.
I think for me, it was, you know, uh, understanding that we're living in difficult times. I mean, the economic situation, not just here in Hawaii, but across the globe, is in a very dire state. And to be honest, right, I think we all are looking for ways to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think for me, the first thing was, really looking at myself and understanding what skill sets do I have, what experiences do I bring to the table. Um, and once you lay that all of that out, you make the placemat. Uh, you know, what can I now then offer to folks? I think that's the first thing you need to do is that kind of that self reflection,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, understanding that uh, and I had that fear, right, of that imposter syndrome, right? It's like, okay, maybe if I I should do this for charity. I should do it for free. And I think that's for us as community people, as Native peoples, right? Where we don't want to make money off of it, but understanding that, well, if we're not going to be the ones there, it's going to be others who may not have the experience, who may not have the best intentions in mind. And if not me, then who? So I think I continue to have that kind of imposter syndrome. But I think for me is, look, I have a certain skill set that I think could be valuable to people, to organizations, to different initiatives. And you can't be afraid to market yourself. As Native peoples, right, we don't like talking about ourselves. But I think we can do it in a way of, we're not glorifying ourselves, but we're just, hey, you're doing great things. How can I help? And like I said, I'm not looking to make it rich off of this business venture, right? That's why I continue to have a full-time job. But if there are areas that I think I can help, where I can provide services, I can provide a skill set, I can add to the conversation, we can talk about the price afterwards. But I think just being able to have a platform where you can offer up any assistance, I think is really valuable. And like I said, I'm still trying to figure out this whole business venture myself, but I realize that, look, there needs to be more of us out there sharing our experiences with our communities, with businesses, with organizations, and I think there's a market for it. But like I said, right, I think it's, how can I help, and we'll figure out the price afterwards. Because I think we've seen too many of these types of individuals and businesses offering services, and I think we've all found ourselves in that place where we're looking at, like, wow, I could have done a way better job for half the price. Right? So I mean, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm blessed and grateful that so many opportunities have come up in the past month for this venture of mine to engage with, and really excited to see where it's going to head.
All right, man. Let's get into the questions, because I'm sure that we can talk for like 3 hours more when we go through the questions.
Might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, by all means. Like I do also do a long form conversation, which is also like a Joe Rogan style kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
So I think that we should do as well, because this obviously this is not enough 1 hour. But then again, let's give it a try.
Sure.
First question that came in. Obviously, someone that knows you. What are the lessons that you were taught that you will teach your kid differently? You're going to be a dad in February, so have you thought about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I sorry, what was the question? What would I teach them differently?
Yeah. What are the lessons that you were taught that you will teach your kid differently?
I think one of the things is that I think growing up is that coming from the type of family that I came from, right, is there's a certain expectation of, well, this is only so far you can go. And I think for me, growing up, I mean, that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was taught to me, but it was implied that, okay, you can only go this far. But I think, we need to be teaching our kids that it doesn't matter where you come from, what type of family you come from, what your socioeconomic background is that the possibilities are endless. And that if you work hard, and if you push through adversity, you overcome obstacles and challenges, you can be whatever you want to be, whether you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a politician, whatever. The possibilities are endless, and that you should pursue whatever dream, whatever field you want to do. I mean, I've had folks who in my life have told me, getting a Hawaiian studies degree is useless. What are you going to just be a teacher? And those same people are now second guessing themselves, like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. But, I mean, I want to teach my kids that, you don't have to sell yourself short. That if you work hard, anything can be achieved through that.
Yeah. Like it's just quickly, my thoughts on it as well is that I I don't have a kid. But let me, or no, there's no one in the plan, not in the pipeline, so to say, at this point. But I can imagine also from my own experience that like our parents, like in general, um, have a certain view of things, of like the classic view, or like
Mm-hmm.
go to school, go to this, go to work, come home and provide for your family, and then that's pretty much it. On the flip side, or they also, no, not on the flip side, but they also I heard some stories of parents that are totally on the opposite side of where you stand, where you stand as an activist, as indigenous rights,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to stand up for your community, and the parents are like, well, just keep your head down, just ride
Yeah,
this wave, and like it's too big to
to
it's too big
achieve.
of a
Yeah.
monster to achieve. And to me it feels like very limiting, like you said, like glass
Mm-hmm.
ceiling kind of thing,
Yeah.
um to instill upon your kids, to give them like the limits, because in a way it's limiting your vision, or your
Yeah.
reach of your vision.
And you bring up another point where, I think one thing that I do want to instill in my own kids is that your voice has power,
Mm,
right? And that you shouldn't be afraid to speak up. You shouldn't be afraid of what the consequences might be if you voice your opinion on a certain issue. There's a Hawaiian proverb that says uh, that there's power in your voice,
mm,
right? And that you should be using your voice for good, but you shouldn't be afraid to use it. And I think you bring up a great point of where, I think, you look at our parents and our grandparents' generation, they were taught just keep your head down, don't cause any waves, don't cause any controversy. But I think when we look when you look at our generation, I mean, we're leading movements. I
mm-hmm.
mean, we have brothers and sisters down in New Zealand who are protesting development. You have people here in Hawaii who are using their voices to protest the building of a telescope on a sacred mountain. You have, young people across the world, across indigenous communities, using their voice to speak up. And I think that's what's different. I think between us and the generation previously. Um, but there are exceptions, and I think there are folks like
Sure.
Lily Kala,
Yeah.
the Haunani K Trasks, who they they wouldn't settle for it and anymore, and that if something was being wrong, they would use their voice and to uh, protest it, and I think that's kind of set the platform for us where it's become normal to speak your voice.
Yeah.
But I still engage with folks and kupuna and elders who still tell me don't make too much waves, don't cause too much controversy. But I think that's where you see the generational shift.
And how do you deal with that? When you engage with them, like, and do you try to spin it, or like do you try to convince them, or how do you engage in that type of conversation?
you know, I I kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Mm,
And that sometimes uh, you're not going to change the minds of everybody.
mm,
And in the instances where I've engaged with folks like that, I respectfully share my point of view. I respectfully share why I think a certain way or why I chose to speak out in this manner. And sometimes you just have to agree to disagree. But ultimately letting them know that, you're doing it for the right reasons. You're doing it for the right purposes. You're doing it with respect. And 99.9% of the time, that answer was sufficient enough for them. But I do, I do know many people, right, who come from these types of backgrounds where, they're taught that speaking out isn't the right thing to do, and that you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't cause waves. But change doesn't come if you stay idle. And that the movements we have, here in America, is Black Lives Matter. And that was a recent social justice issue. But it's people speaking their voices and saying, "Hey, I'm done staying silent. I'm done, with this injustice, and that I'm not going to let it happen anymore." So I think we see movements across history and movements even these days where it's being led by people who have just been fed up, and that they're going to speak their voice, they're going to speak truth to power, and they're going to continue to do what they think is right. And I think that's one thing that I think future generations need to understand, is that, we don't have to be quiet anymore, and that when things are not being done in a righteous matter, we have an obligation and a responsibility to point those things out and to try to correct them. So I think that's one thing we should be instilling in all of our children, is that your voice is a tool. Your voice is a tool for change. But I think in order to effectively use that voice, I think that's where we have to get educated. We have to develop our own ideas. We have to do our homework, right? Anybody can just go out there and yell and scream, right? But it takes a certain individual to do it in a way that's effective, in a way that's going to resonate with people. So yeah,
definitely. I would add something, at least from my personal perspective, I would add something that like that it's also very important to have a certain utopian view or vision to do so. Otherwise, you can go out to the streets, protest, but like it has to lead to something. You need to have this North Star, the point on the horizon that you want to get to. Otherwise, you're just like a loose cannon. You're a ship without a rudder. We're all in the same walk. We're all in the same waka, and you want the waka to go to a certain place, and you need to know what that place is in order to be able to to get to it. So definitely have a voice and education. Your kid will be all right, and I think like it's
I hope so. This is going to be the first time around, so we'll see. I'll check back with you in about a year from now.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Let's get to the second question.
Sure.
Probably a little bit in line with what we shared before. The question is, he asks, I want to start an indigenous business too and suffer from shiny object syndrome. Any advice on how or where to start to actually get my business off the ground? Any thoughts?
Like I said, right, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to look at what skill sets you have, what you can offer. And I think once you figure that out, then it's just doing it, right? I mean, I think there's no perfect blueprint of how to jumpstart your own successful business or your own successful venture. But once you have kind of that foundation those foundational values and those foundational pieces in place, then I think from there is trying to figure out how you navigate. I think everywhere is different, right? And it depends where you're doing it, what type of messaging you bring out from it. But for me, one of my biggest advice is just do it, right? And of course, gotta have some sort of plan, but plans change all the time, and I think you just need to be adaptable with the times, adaptable with the situations that we may find ourselves in, and most of all, it's just hard work. I think, no matter what we do, whether it's starting your own indigenous business, whether it's running for office, whether it's getting an education, nothing beats hard work. And if you're going to be the hardest worker in the room, you're going to be fine. So I mean, that's my advice. I mean, I am no expert in doing this, and I still find myself treading water. I still find myself trying to figure out what's next. But if you work hard, and you have the confidence that your hard work is going to get you there, then you're going to be where you want to be.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think like execution beats the perfect plan, because like perfect, like it is, there's a fine line, at least in my view, there's a fine line between perfection and procrastination, because it's like you like that's I think that when you talk about shiny object syndrome, like you keep, if you keep on over analyzing things, you won't get anything off the ground. So like execute, and like you said, just like adapt, like there's certain that there are various ways that can lead to wherever you want to go to, but you have to like put it out there and let the market decide,
and I think part of it too is gotta have the confidence, right? Is you need to be confident in yourself, even when things don't go the way you want it to go. Having that confidence that you're gonna pick yourself back up and you're gonna just keep trudging forward. Because I think no matter what you do, right? It's not how you fall; it's how you get back up, right? And if you have the confidence to know that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what obstacles or challenges life may present you with, that you're gonna get over it. Even if you fall once, twice, 10, 15 times, that you're going to get back up every single time. And I don't think that's just something that's applicable to just starting your own business. I think that's something applicable to life, right? Is that no matter how much times we fall, you have to get up, right? And the picture that I have in my head, right, is that imagine if our ancestors didn't get back up. Imagine if they just threw up the white flag and said, I'm done. Right, we wouldn't be where we're at today. We wouldn't have things like the UN drip. We wouldn't have things like, this Mauna Kea movement, right? Which people thought there's no way they're gonna stop that telescope from being built. Hey, 5, 6, 7 years later, it's still not built yet. I mean, there's some success there, but it's understanding that you have to work hard. I mean, even if you fall, you have a responsibility to get back up, because there's people and future generations depending on you.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump quickly to the next question. Otherwise, we'll get stuck on business development, and I'm sure there's a lot more interesting to talk about. Things to talk about. The next question is, she asked, what did you learn from being a chief of staff to Senator Kalani English? I like when I think of being a chief of staff, is like being the Leo McGarry to the Judge
President
Bartlett. How far is it? How far is it from the truth? Is it similar? What were your experiences and what did you learn?
I jumped into that role literally the day after I graduated from college. I didn't know what to expect. But it's really been a great experience, because I've had the opportunity to, like I said, sit in rooms where decisions are being made. And I think in the first, year or two, it was just me sitting there quietly, observing, taking notes, kind of analyzing what's going on. And then over time, right, it was my boss giving me the opportunity to input my opinion, input my ideas, and then eventually to the point to where we're sitting there strategizing how we're going to get this bill passed, or how are we going to resolve this situation, or how are we going to communicate this message in a way that people will understand it. I think the lesson that I've really taken away is that you have to adapt. You have to be willing to adapt to different situations. You have to be able to think on your feet. But you also have to be confident in the decision that you make, even if you are that lone voice of opposition. And I think working in this role has really given me a perspective that running a government isn't easy. Being in these types of leadership positions in government isn't a walk in the park, right? And that the decisions you make every single day have effects on your community, on your constituency, right? So you always have to keep that in the back of your head. But you're there to do one job, which is to serve the public. And so no matter what decision you make, if that's kind of your North Star, that's your guiding star, then there's no reason for you to not be confident in the decisions you make.
Mm.
So I think for me, it's really allowed me to understand government a lot more, right? There, you can sit in a class for 4 years at a university as a political science major and think you know everything about government. And then you work one day and you realize that whatever you learned in that classroom, whatever you read in a book goes out the door. Um,
Really?
you know, yeah, so I mean, I think for me, right, is if you wanna learn about government truly, I think you have to engage with it first and foremost, but more importantly, find a job, where even if it's just for a few years to understand how the system works. You may not agree with the system, but you know how it works. You know its strengths, but you also know its faults. So I think for me, that's what really I've taken away
Yeah.
is that it's not easy, but it's work that I think is necessary, but also work that I think, like I said, we need more Indigenous peoples in these major key roles, not just as elected officials, but as the guys in the background making these things happen. So I mean, like I said, forever grateful for the opportunity that I had to serve in that role. So I
Hmm.
really think it's really equipped me with a bunch of new different skills and experiences that I can use moving forward.
Right, right. Appreciate for laying that out. Let's quickly throw in the last question, because I'm sure you have to go as well, and it's already late over there in Hawaii. What should Native Hawaiians be looking into right now to safeguard their future? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'm going to preach it, and I think I'll be preaching it for the next couple years. But I think it's becoming civically engaged.
Mm,
I think that's one way that we as a Hawaiian community here, can get a better grasp of our future. And I think the first and foremost is you got to vote. Native Hawaiians have been known to not turn out as much voters as other ethnic groups here in our states, like the Japanese or the Caucasian. But I think if we're able to organize in a way that we become a major voting bloc, that's where these guys running for office will have to listen to us,
mm,
right? I mean, you look at other ethnic groups, right? They vote in these consistent voting blocks. So if you're a guy running for governor or you're a woman running for mayor, you're gonna go to these key leaders because you want to get their support. You don't see you don't see that happening with our Native Hawaiian community. So if we can come together civically, and I think for one, just uh, build up our political capacity, I think we'll be able to see the change that we want to see. I think secondly is, we have to get our people, get our Native Hawaiians, not just in key positions in government, but we need to be uh, taking up key positions in the business community, in the health community, in the legal community, in every economic sector. Native Hawaiians should be at the top. Whether you agree with the current government system that we operate under, we need to make do with the system that we're working in right now. And I think the way that we can grasp a better hold of our self-determination is to make sure that we get our people in these key positions. And I've always been one to say that when Hawaiians thrive, Hawaii thrives.
mm.
So if you can uplift, our most vulnerable populations, you uplift everybody. But I think that the talent and the skill and uh, the individuals, the talented individuals that we have in our Hawaiian community, there's no excuse why we don't have a Hawaiian governor or we don't have Hawaiians, topping, these lists of successful businesses, or why we don't have more Native Hawaiian doctors. I think the talent is out there,
Hmm.
and we just need to organize a lot better and figure out what is our plan.
Yeah.
Because I think as we continue to move forward, we're going to need to bring a Hawaiian perspective and this indigenous perspective to help solve a lot of the different issues that we find ourselves in. I mean, like, here in Hawaii, we're fortunate that, for issues like climate change, we're not looking for new ideas or new solutions. We're just looking back in our own history and realizing that, hey, we have the answers to fix climate change. It starts with natural resource management. It starts with making sure that we take care of everything from mountain to the sea. That's not a new concept. That's a concept that our ancestors practiced for thousands of years. And we were able to thrive in the middle of this huge Pacific Ocean without modern technology. But I think it's making sure that we bring the indigenous knowledge that we have in our own cultures and bring it forward into these different fields. Because I think a lot of the problems that we have in society today can be solved using indigenous knowledge. And so that's something I hope to see more of our Hawaiians here in Hawaii doing. Not just building themselves professionally and personally, but really bringing our own cultural practices that we do in our daily lives to the forefront, and offer them up as solutions. And I think you know this, that a lot of the times we don't need to be looking for new answers. Just why don't you ask the people who have been doing it for thousands of years? I think they can tell you what's going wrong and how to fix it. But if we can find more ways for our Hawaiian community to really thrive in both worlds, right? I think we do a good job or we've done a good job of revitalizing our culture. But if we can now build ourselves up from a Western context and walk in both worlds, I think the possibilities are endless. And that's when we're going to see ourselves getting to the places that we want to see ourselves in.
Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom. And people need to know, this is not a 45-year-old guy talking. This is he's a young and has a very already impressive resume, and there's no end in sight. So very much thank you so much for everything. By the way, people the previous question, this whole Leo McGarry, Josiah Bartlett reference.
Watch the West Wing.
Watch the West Wing, 100%. Well, it's I keep binge watching it every every other month or something.
Try living here in the U.S. where you've operated under the current political structure that we've been under since 2016. Watching the West Wing has definitely been therapeutic for so many people. So unfortunately, we won't get into that, but definitely a top 10 show of all time.
100%. My top 5, definitely. And let's do this. We'll talk 1 year from now, do the Joe Rogan style, long form, and then we'll talk more about everything. Appreciate you for your time, man. I know it's late over there in Hawaii, for everything that you did, everything that you do. And whenever I can help you with anything, just let me know. Love to help you.
Man, no, thank you. And definitely, I know I've been absent on the UN circuit for the past couple of years, but I look to be back this year, no matter how. I'm probably the permanent form will probably be virtual, fingers crossed, so definitely looking at ways of getting back on that UN circuit and really reconnecting with folks, I think, as who are doing great work across the world for our Native people. So, but yeah, man, thank you for having me on this, and best of luck. And thank you for the work that you do to really elevate and amplify our Native voices. That's something I think in this day and age we need to do, and I think you are doing it. So thanks, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Have a good day.